I'm just gonna come right out and say it and set the tone for the remainder of this video. This shit is so but with a K. I hear you now saying correctly. Good job. It's been like a year. Surely you must have set aside your burdens for your period of peace and quiet. Otherwise you wouldn't be here. And you're right. That is why I'm here. Because while the MCAT was a horrid beast all on its own, the path to medical school is marked with many cumbersome trials, each as perilous and expensive as the last. And here I am again, using my Glockenflecken given right to complain on the internet in a way that is both hopefully educational and entertaining. This video will have the same purposes as the MCAT video. In descending order of importance, it is for entertainment, venting, and education. I will explain various aspects of the medical school application system so that my non-pre-med friends can again suffer vicariously. I will also provide some navigation for any wandering, neurotic pre-meds who have somehow found their way to this video. Welcome. You're safe here. But hey, I got a question for you.
It's a simple question on the surface, right? Most people when applying to colleges during high school have a school that they're really excited to go to, and then a handful of... Who the fuck are you? Oh my fucking god, help!
When you're applying to college out of high school, you usually have one school you're really excited about and a handful of other schools that you don't care about as much but will still go to anyway. Medical school is different because the objective changes from getting into a school you think you'll like to getting into a school at all. Out of the 25 schools I applied to, the chances of...
25 fucking schools?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
That's not like abnormal. Ah!
Oh my
Jesus Christ! Aiming for the jugular, dude. Yes, though, 25 schools. When only about 2% of applications are admitted per school, 5% if you're going to Yale, you're gonna want to take every chance you can afford. And big emphasis on afford there. Why would you spend thousands of dollars gambling on the numbers when you can just gamble on these numbers instead, baby? But you can rest easy, knowing that before you kiss that fat chunk of change goodbye, it all begins with a measly $28. $28 on what, you may ask? Why, $28 to know what schools you should apply to, of course. Idiot! Why would that information be free? We're the AAMC! Of course we're gonna charge for it! Oh, we're also gonna call it MSAR, which is really close to this bacteria or this virus. Damn AAMC, I didn't know you were freaky like that! Shit! Okay, so that 2% number I threw out a minute ago, that's just the average amount of matriculants per school divided by the average amount of apps per school. It's a flat, empty number that doesn't mean much outside of showing the necessity and peril of applying to multiple schools. I am sorry, I betrayed you. What really matters is how closely you as a student align with a school's profile. Do your MCAT and GPA scores match the class average? Do you have a vested interest in community service or research? Do you have primary care aspirations? So on and so forth. Basic stuff. Broadly speaking, the more that you as a student align with the school's profile, or even exceed the profile, the better your chances of admission are, however slim that might be. MSAR gives you all that insight in an organized platform for every school that uses AMCAS. There is no counterpart for ACOMOS, it's a free-for-all. Good luck. MSAR is good for building an initial school list, but you should also consult each school's website individually to further refine your list. The pre-med subreddit is a cesspool that the AIs of the future will train on to learn what hatred feels like, but the wiki does have good resources on how to refine your list as well. A school's website will also give you information that MSAR usually doesn't, or is at least out of date on. For example, is the school you want to go to a public school? That's sweet. That's nice. Is it out of state? Ugh. That's so precious. You're so stupid. They probably don't want you. At least they might not want you. That's why you need to check the website, because public schools are funded by the state that they're in usually, and so they have a vested interest in recruiting people from their state. So the admission bias is really skewed for in-state or for people who have a relation to the state or who want to work in the state, and so you might just be wasting your money if you apply there. They'll let you know explicitly in the language of the website, like, hey, we take more in-state versus out-of-state. If you want to take that risk, you can apply here, but you probably won't get in. Also, hey, did you go to community college to get your med school prereqs done? Did you do that to save money? Did you do that because you discovered medicine later in life and were a non-STEM major in college? Yeah, you shouldn't have done that. Any of it. You should have, out of the womb, you should have known that medicine was the only pathway for you. It's always been the ultimate destination. Otherwise, why would you debase yourself by going to a community college? That's dirty. Are you dirty? Are you a dirty, swallowed ocean creature? Did evolution just gift you with lungs and legs, and now you're walking among the rest of us like a normal human being? No! Surely it's a blessing that the air that is wrapped is unconscious, because if it were, it would escape your lungs in a deep, guttural, horrific scream, knowing that it kept you alive. That's how some medical school websites talk about going to community college for your prereqs. It doesn't mean you can't apply to their school, it's just like annoying and petty. For some reason, they really want you to waste your money at a 4-year. It's not that bad. No, I'm serious. Like, there's one part that sucks a lot, and we're gonna get to it, but the rest of it's fine. Oh, and starting now, we are officially on the medical school application timeline. All 3 of the big med school systems, AMCAS, ACOMAS, and TIMSIS, which I'm not going to touch with a 10-foot Texan pole. Hey, quick explainer here. Yes, there are 3 different medical school application systems in the United States. AMCAS is for allopathic medical schools that offer MDs, ACOMAS is for osteopathic medical schools that give out DOs, and TIMSIS are for medical schools in Texas, which don't count. You cannot import any of your information from one application system to another, so that means that you get to waste time by copying and pasting everything over yourself. There are no functional differences between MD and DO, or allopathic and osteopathic medical schools. The only differences are the philosophies behind the degrees, which boards they have to take, and stigma. At the end of the day, no matter where you apply to or where you go, you'll basically be learning the same things and the same skills. Now back to the primary application we go! They all open up in early May, but you can't actually submit your application until a later date, usually in later May. I think the 3 systems have a different opening date for that, but I'll put it on the screen somewhere if they do. Most, if not all, medical schools use rolling admissions, which means that applications are reviewed as they come in. Compare this to a traditional system where there is a single date where everybody submits their application and a single date in the future where everybody receives a decision. What rolling admissions mean in practice is that it is within your best interest to get your things submitted as early as possible so that you can get the ball rolling on other parts of your application, like secondaries, interviews, and decision making. All schools have their own due dates for the primary application, but none of them matter because you are built like everybody else and you will be submitting yours in late May or early June. This is a non-negotiable. The primary application is more or less what you would expect. You're gonna punch in your academic history, your test scores, your extra vol and work experiences, body count, whether that's first-degree murder or sex, depends on the school. Again, check your website. Layers of Rec. You should be able to take care of all of this in less than a week. There's a very comprehensive how-to guide for AMCAS and ACOMAS on their respective websites if you get lost or if you have something strange to report. Now, for some finer points. If you haven't already gotten your Layers of Rec, you should check your school's letter writer preferences. Some schools get really specific on what they want. Some would really prefer for you to have, like, a packet from a pre-med committee or a committee letter, or letters only from like hard science faculty or from doctors or whatever. If you have no idea what I just said, what's a pre-med committee, what's a committee letter, that's okay. I didn't either. My school didn't have those. You're totally fine so long as you have individual letter writers and they meet the criteria. And sometimes you can just say fuck it and submit anyway. Some schools don't care. You can just get on by with whatever letters you want. Like, I had 2 schools give me shit for this. One of them said, thank you for your time, vamos, goodbye. And the other one said, you know what, dude? Fuck it. Like, you're chill, we're chill. Let's just see how the night goes, man. Let's go back to my place, have a few drinks, maybe dance a little bit. Like, it can go either way. I don't know. Also, check to see if your schools require a $100 sociopath or situational judgment test, like Preview or Casper. This video is not the place to receive advice for those exams because one time I made a PowerPoint to convince my friends that I'm not a serial killer, and it actually made them more suspicious. AKA, I got mid-quartile scores, and I'm sick of thinking about it, so we're moving on. And move on we shall, because once you've punched in all the information and chosen your schools, your primary application's pretty much done. Well, except for the... Listen here, buckaroo, I don't care about how good of a writer you think you are. Having to write about how great you are for 2 pages in a way that is convincing, not too humble, and not too arrogant, has radicalized me. Like, I believe that anyone who writes an autobiography does not make it to heaven when they die. Straight to hell. This is going to be the roughest part of your application, and that's partially because the prompt you're expected to answer is so broad. Why do you want to be a doctor? Also, hey, hello. Before we continue, I just want to comment that I am not an admissions counselor, nor have I ever been on an admissions committee. I'm stupid, like I'm an idiot, straight up, but I've done this before, and I made it through, okay? And I know you can too, so let's just get back to it. I think it's best to start by recognizing the goals of the people who will be reading your application. The student doctors, actual doctors, and admissions folks who are going to read through your personal statement are really just looking for two things. They want to make sure that their investment in you is going to pay off. You're going to be a good little medical student who's going to finish school in 4 years with good test scores, a local impact on the community, and maybe even some research under your belt. You're going to do all of this without crumbling under pressure and eyeing the 9mm in your dad's gun safe. In translation, a huge goal of yours while writing your statement is to effectively communicate to schools that you've got what it takes to complete their program. The other part is meaningfully writing about your reason for going into medicine. Obviously, I don't know what that is for you. It's going to take some brainstorming and reflection on your part. I'm sorry. What I can do is give you some pointers that might help you bring your reason into focus. My first recommendation is to avoid latching onto a specific person or event as your reason for going into medicine. Remember that this is your statement. While there are people and events in your life that have inspired you, they will become the setting and characters of your story instead of the focus. They will provide the background that supplies context for your inner thoughts and feelings, your reflections, your values, you. It is the pursuit and derivation of your personal character that med schools are interested in hearing about above all else. And somewhere in that series of developments is your reason for choosing medicine as your craft. A useful way to start thinking about your reason is to define a list of marketable values and traits. I got my list from organizing responses from loved ones I solicited into common groups. From there, I thought about moments in my life where those traits shine through. This is what psychosis looks like. Perhaps this is hell. In my statement, there is a story about how I dealt with a personally challenging situation, another story about how I responded to a objectively challenging situation, a series of activities that tied together my love of science and service, and a conclusion that brings all my traits demonstrated by the stories together into one clear, definitive why medicine reason. Because remember, you can be as gritty, resilient, service-oriented, compassionate, driven, motivated, and sciencey as you want. You can have all those things and go into any other STEM field, but you're here to be a doctor, and you need to be able to explain why you're choosing to do that instead of any of those other things. Final word of advice on the personal statement. You don't need to cram every interesting thing that's ever happened to you into it. One, because you only have about 5,300 characters to do it, and two, you're gonna want to save some stories for your Hey, you ever think about, like, ending it all, like, right now, in front of each other? Because, boy, oh, howdy, Death's Embrace is looking mighty fine right about now. Yes, sir. Hey, shout out to the National Suicide Hotline, by the way. These guys do God's work. Friend of the show, friend of the channel. Here's the number. Buy my boys a pizza. Shout out. If you've applied to other graduate programs that aren't medical school, good choice. I don't want you to apply. Back off. More competition bad. Down, boy. Down. I'm sorry. But I bet you're wondering what secondary is. You didn't need to do that for your application. And that's because it's only for us. Only for medical and dental students. Go us. Here's a fucking trophy. A secondary is an additional application that's sent back to you from every school you apply to. If you've been a good little student and you got your primary application sent in by late May, early June, again, non-negotiable, you did do that, you should expect to receive your secondaries by the end of June, mid-July. And you'll definitely receive all of them by the end of July. Some schools are selective about who they send their secondaries to, but like, not really. You should still expect to get one from everywhere you apply to. It's in every school's best interest to send out as many of these as possible because of the price. Because for the bargain price of $100 per school, you get the honor and privilege of finding new and exciting ways to say, please, daddy, please, let me into your medical school. Because yes, oh yes, there be essays abound, matey, and you're gonna do every single one of them. Your typical secondary consists of around 3 to 5 questions, each with a maximum word count of around 200 to 600 words. If you're feeling brave, you can seek out secondaries from previous years and start pre-filling from there. Be mindful of the fact that secondaries are subject to change from year to year. From 2023 to 2024, when I applied, some of the schools that I applied to had their secondaries change, And in 2022 to 2023, again, some schools also changed their secondaries, and it's just too much for my stupid ass to keep track of, so I just didn't bother. What I did instead was I chose to focus on commonly recurring kinds of questions, which we're going to go over now briefly. Why did you apply to our school? You chose most of your schools because they fell within your MCAT and GPA range, but you're not going to say that because that's lame and stupid. And you're not lame and stupid, you're magical and cool and special, and you handpicked this school out of all the others because something about it impressed you. If you have not already done so, take the time now to research the school and local area to see what excites you. Some school websites are awesome, and they are bursting with information about labs and local opportunities, student clubs and organizations, all that fun stuff. And other websites are absolute dog shit, and you get to spend 1,500 characters writing about how excited you are for the unique curriculum or whatever. It's a fun gamble. Even if you don't get hit with the "why do you want to go here?" question, you should still do research into the school to figure out cool information about it in case you can insert it into other secondary answers or for the interview. How will you contribute to the diversity of the student body? This one is a bit strange at first because, hey, y'all mind if the white boy speaks a bit of Mexican tonight? Arriba. But the diversity in question is referring to diversity in thought, above all else. A better reading of the question would be, what are some things you've done or experienced in your life that have changed how you see the world and others around you? Your answer to this question does not need to reflect anything about your cultural or ethnic background, because med schools understand that their broadest demographic are middle-class, young, white, Asian people. If you are not in that demographic and there's something in your background that's really important to you as a person, then you can write about that. Sure, do what you want. I mean, hell, even if you are in that demographic and there's a part of your background that's really important to you and sets you apart, you can write about that too. Do what you want, I'm not your dad, whatever. But if you're anything like moi, and you are in the demographic and you are just like a stock standard American, you should rely on your activities and insights gained from them to set you apart. Describe your efforts to interact with and understand people who are different from you. This is an increasingly popular subgenre of the diversity question, and it can be answered in a pretty similar way. Rely on your activities. If you've ever worked in a collaborative setting, you have a job that serves the public, you volunteer in your local community, you can write about that kind of stuff. And also, if you're sneaky enough, you can retune your answer to the diversity question and use it here instead, if it's not already present in your secondary. But you didn't hear that one from me. I would never do that. How will you contribute to our school's mission, and how do you align with our values? Out of all of the common questions you're gonna run into, this one feels the most like you're gonna get on your knees and undo a belt buckle, not your own. Dog, they literally tell you what to write. It's like writing your personal statement just without the reflection. Take your pick. Professionalism, commitment, compassion, innovation, DEI, commitment to excellence, lifelong learning. Their lawyers wrote this so that their investors would have something to hold them to, and now we need to justify it. So dance, monkey, dance! How would you solve this deeply complex and layered social issue? You say you're an advocate? Prove it. Bet you couldn't define health disparity without stuttering, you fucking suburbanite. Get a grip. Bourgeois says what? Bourgeois says what? Yeah, that's what I thought. Solve is obviously hyperbolic. So long as you're demonstrating your understanding of a contemporary societal health issue and what's being done to help it and any possible solutions, you're good. Your solutions don't even need to be original. Nobody expects you to draft a new ACA or anything. If nothing immediately comes to mind, just do some research and find a topic that you wouldn't mind learning more about. Bonus points if you're able to connect it to some past experience or work you've had. Now, regardless of the question, you may hear from other sources that the true goal of a secondary is just to be authentic. Just be yourself. You don't need to use the same level of professional rhetoric here as you do with your personal statements, because for secondaries, the point is to bedazzle up your app with some of your unique pizzazz. Ooh girl, ooh yeah, ooh get it, slay. And this is true to the point that for your secondaries, you don't need to use the same level of Pulitzer Prize winning craft as you did for your personal statement, but otherwise it's not very helpful. It's hard to be authentic when you have to answer a prompt like, how do you define grit? Or give us 5 reasons you'd make an excellent physician. Because my realist, truest response to those questions is to is to have an imposter syndrome fueled nervous breakdown, like I'm about to have right now, because AMCAS and ACOMAS are both built on the idea that medical school is very hard, and that medical students and pre-med students should work very hard to get into that very hard school. And all those things are true. Like, med school is very hard, and we do work very hard as students to get there. There's no questioning that. But, like, hard work can be enjoyable. You know, like, I enjoy hard work, but work is usually secondary to the fact that you're getting something out of it. For college, for school, like, I worked hard to get good grades and everything, but the work was secondary to the fact that I was learning really cool things along the way that I was interested in. That was all awesome. I love that shit. for the jobs that I've had, like, I go to work to get paid, but I also am building up like a CV. I'm meeting new people. I'm getting new skills. I'm having new experiences, getting out of the house, getting into the world. It's great. Like, there are reasons to go to work and to work hard. And it's not just because you're working, right? There is something else there for you to experience, to discover. But with these secondaries, with this whole application process, there is nothing like that. Like, there is no guaranteed payoff. There's nothing for you other than maybe a chance of getting into a school. Out of the 25 places you apply to, you might get into one, if you're lucky. Like, it's all a gamble. I've wasted hours of my life and thousands of dollars to feel like a fraud. I need to be consistently inauthentic in how I present myself because I need to filter myself through this value-based, mission-centric, fake professionalism to get a shot at getting into one of your institutions. And you know what? We're not even done yet. We still have more steps. I still gotta go through a fucking interview! This is what I wore to all my interviews, minus the sweatpants. I thought it'd be more comfortable without them. But this is YouTube, and some things were not meant for mortal eyes. Anyway, yeah, the interview is like fine. I guess it depends on what kind of person you are and how well you cope with that kind of thing to begin with. I'm a socially nervous person. I stutter and I stumble through my words. It's bad. Recording these videos is a hell that I can't escape from. But in an interview, these vocal quirks and my natural neurosis comes across as authentic, and it makes me seem more personable. And I 100% take advantage of that. It's a little bit psychotic, but to each their own. Speaking of antisocial personality disorder, the goal of the interview is just to make it seem as if you don't have it. Truly, they just want to make sure that you are a normal and decent person. So just act normal. And you've got a pretty good amount of time to prepare for all of this because the interview offer window is from October to, like, April. Again, this depends on how early you submitted everything, rolling admissions and all of that, and as always, the sooner you prepare, the better. There are two different flavors of interview you might get, the panel or MMI. Some schools use both, some use a secret third option. Again, as always, check the website. Panel interviews are you and a panel of interviewers, usually a med student, a doctor, a faculty member, etc. Just make sure to go through your application and your secondary again before your actual interview day, just to refresh. I would also recommend finding a list of common panel interview questions somewhere and just jotting down some responses to them and practicing before your day comes. Genuinely, panel interviews aren't that bad. Like, I can guarantee with a 90% certainty that before you begin yours, you're gonna hear something like, "Hey, congrats for making it this far. Try to relax. I'm just gonna try to get to know you a bit better. Here's my name, yada yada yada, let's begin." Like, genuinely, you can chill. Also, don't try to impress anybody. The fact that you are in the hot seat in the first place gives you all the merit you need. The fact that you're here means that you are worthy. You're gonna do great. Good luck. MMI, or multiple mini interview, as everything with this application process is hella extra. MMI puts you through a few rounds of scenarios where you will either need to critically think through a problem or roleplay through some kind of complex social situation. Usually, it's some kind of ethical or moral dilemma. You don't need to know any kind of medicine going into this, but it is a good idea to brush up on your medical ethics. The University of Washington has a page full of bioethics topics that is free and available to all. Pretty sick. There is also no shortage of MMI practice scenarios on the internet. I have not used any of them. I cannot say anything about their quality. As for how to think about these scenarios, here's some general advice. Feel free to info gather and ask as many questions of the actor as you can think of, but always do so through a lens of compassion. Remember, you are always talking to a person here, not a problem or their symptoms. Don't expect to arrive at some kind of clean resolution or to even solve a lot of these scenarios. That's not usually the point. The point is just to make sure that you can think on your feet and be critical and ethical and all of that. Best practice is to take whatever issue is at hand, attack it from multiple angles, look at multiple solutions, discuss the merits and drawbacks with the actor, and arrive at some kind of agreement if possible. Some schools now use asynchronous interviews where you can, at home, record yourself answering questions or doing MMI-like prompts. These are strange and impersonal, and I don't like them all that much, but I do enjoy the fact that they only take about half an hour to complete. I also like the fact that they share the same wardrobe as the other interviews, because they're all over Zoom now. Out of all the places I got interviews in, only one place wanted me to come in person. That was in Ohio. I do not live in or wish to go to Ohio. I withdrew and said good day. And what a good day it is, because once you finish all of your interviews, there is nothing else for you to do but wait. Your application is officially done. It's over. $4,000 and a year later, but it's over. Can't say I miss it. It sucked. I guess this is the part of the video where I come clean and say that all of the advice I've been giving is vindicated by the fact that I got into medical school. I'm not going to say where, that's private, and ultimately it doesn't matter. This guy, got into medical school. This dumbass, this guy pinching this sign, slouching in this chair, this guy who's been waiting for this fucking green screen to come down off my wall since like January. It's May now. I've been working on the script since like October of last year, but I've been putting it off because it's just not fun to work on. But it's done now. It's over. I don't know when I'm gonna see all of you next. It's probably gonna be a while. Again, med school is very hard. It's scary, but it's real. I need to keep saying it over and over again so that I can make it more real in my head, but it's true. I'm going to medical school. Thank you all for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. I really appreciate it. See you when I see you. Bye. Honor and privilege of fuck. I'm getting tired of saying this. I'm getting tired of saying the word daddy. No, I can't keep doing this. Help me. There are people in the house. This is embarrassing. But I'm gonna keep doing it. I want to get 2 more good ones, and then I can stop. I want to like get the end one specifically, like the "you're good every single one."